All right, today we're going to break down the fictional 2026 National Defense Strategy. It's a document that signals a really big pivot in American military policy. I mean, the title alone says a lot: Restoring Peace Through Strength. So let's get into what that actually means. Wow. I mean, this one line from the introduction really captures the entire philosophical shift here. It's basically saying, forget all that abstract stuff, we're getting down to brass tacks. It's a hard turn towards what it calls concrete, hard-nosed realism that's all about direct national interests. And believe me, that really sets the tone for everything else. Okay, so let's get into the weeds here. What is this new doctrine, really? Let's kick things off with its main idea and, what problems it's claiming it needs to fix. Right off the bat, this memo lays it all out. It makes this really bold argument that previous policies were, well, all about this utopian idealism, these huge, grandiose nation-building projects. And the price for that? The document says it was the actual security and prosperity of Americans. So this whole strategy is positioned as a major course correction. It's not just saying the old way didn't work. No, it's arguing it was a disaster, that it threw away our military advantages and turned our allies into, well, dependents. A pretty stark claim, right? Basically that the country was heading for a cliff. So what's the big idea behind it all? It really boils down to something the strategy calls flexible, practical realism. And what does that mean? It means every decision, every action is all about one thing: what's best for the United States, period. All right, so you've got to be asking, why the huge change? Well, the document says it's because the world looked pretty dangerous. Let's dig into the specific threats it lays out. And look where it starts. Not halfway across the world, but right here at home. It points the finger directly at what it calls narco-terrorists and overrun borders, calling the drug problem a literal poison affecting hundreds of thousands of Americans. Now, this is really interesting. The strategy basically redefines homeland defense to cover the entire Western Hemisphere. It says, hey, we forgot about the Monroe Doctrine, that old idea about keeping foreign powers out of our neighborhood, and because of that, it argues, our rivals have been setting up shop right in our own backyard. And they're not talking in generalities either. The document gets super specific. It's pointing to these critical strategic spots. Think about it, from the resource-rich Arctic all the way down to the Panama Canal, and saying our influence and access there are at risk. And it's not just our hemisphere. The document says you have to pile these global problems right on top. It paints this really grim picture of a more powerful China, a NATO where allies aren't pulling their weight, and the scary possibility of getting dragged into multiple major wars at once. Maybe even a world war. Okay, so that's the problem, right? A pretty scary world. So what's the solution? Well, the strategy lays out a very clear plan built on 4 big ideas, 4 main pillars. And here they are. It's all about defending the homeland, deterring China, making sure our allies share the load, and getting our own defense industry into high gear. This isn't just a tweak, it's a total reboot of American security policy. So let's take them one by one. Pillar number 1, defend the homeland. This is all about locking down our borders and our entire neighborhood. It talks about something called a Trump corollary to the Monroe Doctrine, which is just a way of saying the U.S. is going to be the dominant player in the Western Hemisphere, and it's going to have real military plans ready to go against those narco-terrorist groups. Next up, China. The motto here is strength, not confrontation. The idea isn't to pick a fight or take over. It's to make sure China can't dominate the region. How? By building up what's called a denial defense, basically making it so tough and costly for them to make a move that they just don't. The strategy says that's how you get to a place where you can negotiate peacefully, because you're doing it from a position of strength. Pillar 3 is a huge one. It's a total shakeup of how the U.S. sees its alliances. The document basically says, look, for too long we've been bankrolling our allies' defense, treating them like dependents. The new rule? Everyone has to step up and become a real partner, paying for their own security. And they're not messing around. They put a number on it, a big one, 5%. The new standard it sets for allies is spending 5% of their GDP on security. That's a huge ask, broken down into core military spending and other security-related funding. Now, what's really important here is how they frame this. The document is careful to say this isn't a punishment. It's being sold as a good thing for everyone. That when allies invest in themselves, the partnerships become stronger and actually last longer. It's about shared interest, not just dependency. And finally, pillar 4. You can't have all this military strength without the gear, right? So this is all about supercharging the U.S. defense industry. We're talking a massive, once-in-a-century revival to make America the world's premier arsenal again, cranking out hardware at scale for itself and its partners. Okay, so let's put it all together. You've got these 4 huge pillars. What's the one big idea that connects them all? What's the bottom line here? I think this quote really nails it. The military is the nation's sword and its shield. It's this incredibly powerful tool, sure, but it's only meant to be used when the nation's most direct, most concrete interests are on the line. Nothing else. At the end of the day, that's what this whole document is about. It's a call to be, as it says, clear-eyed, to cut through the noise and just focus on the real, practical threats and interests of the American people. That's it. That's the priority. And that brings us full circle, right back to that first quote. This huge shift from utopian idealism to hard-nosed realism leaves us with a really big question. If this is the new model, what does that actually mean for the future of international alliances? It's a whole new ballgame, and it really makes you think.